Comparison is killing your faith. It's stealing your joy. It's making you feel hopeless. And it's keeping you from seeing what God is doing in your life. When you're constantly looking at what others have, what others are doing, where others are in their journey, you miss what God has for you. And the worst part? It becomes a loop. You compare, you feel hopeless. So you compare more, and it never ends. If you're stuck in that cycle, this message is for you. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're talking about something that I used to struggle with, and something I see a lot of people I love struggling with right now. Comparison. And I'm not just talking about casual comparison. I'm talking about the kind of comparison that makes you feel like you're not good enough, like you're behind, like everyone else is blessed and you're stuck. I used to be trapped in that. But I'm not anymore. Because I learned that it's God's will and timing that matters, not my own. And His plans are always better than mine. But I see people close to me, people I care about, family even, stuck in this loop. They look at what others have. They compare themselves. And they feel hopeless because they don't have the same thing. Because comparison doesn't just steal your joy. It kills your faith. It makes you doubt God's goodness. It makes you question His timing. And it keeps you from being grateful for what you do have. So today let's talk about how to break free from comparison. The comparison trap. Here's how the comparison trap works. You see someone else's success, their blessing, their breakthrough. And instead of being happy for them, you immediately think, why not me? Why do they have that and I don't? Why are they further ahead? Why does God seem to be blessing them and not me? And once you start down that road, it's hard to stop. Because everywhere you look, you see more things to compare. More people who seem to have it better than you. Social media makes it worse. Because everyone posts their highlight reel, their best moments, their wins, their blessings. But you're comparing their highlight reel to your behind the scenes. And you feel like you're failing, like you're not good enough, like God forgot about you. But that's a lie. And comparison is the thief that's feeding you that lie. It becomes a loop. Here's the worst part. Comparison creates a loop, a cycle that's hard to break. You compare yourself to someone. You feel hopeless because you don't measure up. And because you feel hopeless, you compare even more, trying to figure out what you're doing wrong. And it just spirals. It becomes this constant inner dialogue of, why don't I have what they have? What's wrong with me? When is it going to be my turn? And I see this in people I love, close friends, family. They get stuck in this loop and it steals their peace. It steals their joy and it kills their faith. Because when you're constantly comparing, you stop trusting God. You stop believing that He has a good plan for you. You start thinking that His plan for everyone else is better than His plan for you. And that's not faith. That's doubt. When it's between family, the worst part is when comparison happens between family, between siblings, between relatives, between people who should be celebrating each other. I've seen it. Someone in the family gets blessed, gets a promotion, buys a house, gets engaged, and instead of everyone being happy, there's comparison, there's jealousy, there's why them and not me. And it creates division. It creates tension. It makes family gatherings awkward because people are silently comparing and feeling bitter. That's not how God designed family to be. We're supposed to celebrate each other, to encourage each other, to be happy when others are blessed. But comparison makes that impossible. Peter and John, what is that to you? There's a moment in John 21 that really speaks to this. Jesus had just restored Peter after he denied him 3 times. And Jesus tells Peter how he's going to die, how he's going to glorify God. And Peter immediately looks at John and asks, "Lord, what about him?" He's comparing. Okay, I'm going to die this way. But what about John? What's his story going to be? And Jesus says something powerful in verse 22. He says, "If I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me." What is that to you? In other words, Peter, stop worrying about John's journey. Stop comparing. You follow me. You focus on what I've called you to do. That's the answer to comparison. What is that to you? Their blessing, their timing, their calling, their journey? What is that to you? You have your own path, your own calling, your own timeline. Focus on that. Run your own race. Galatians 6:4 says, "Each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else." Test your own actions. Take pride in your journey without comparing. You're not running someone else's race. You're running yours. And if you're constantly looking at the person in the lane next to you, you're going to trip. You're going to lose focus. You're going to slow down. Hebrews 12:1-2 says, "Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus." The race marked out for you, not for them, for you. And your eyes should be on Jesus, not on the person next to you. God's timing is different for everyone. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that God's timing is different for everyone. What He's doing in your life is not going to look like what He's doing in someone else's life. Some people get blessed early. Some people wait years. Some people have a straight path. Some people have a winding road. And that's okay, because God knows what He's doing. He knows what you need. He knows when you need it. And His timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't feel like it. Abraham waited 25 years for Isaac. Joseph waited 13 years in slavery and prison before he became second in command of Egypt. David was anointed as king as a teenager, but didn't actually become king until he was 30. God's timing is different for everyone. And comparison makes you doubt that. It makes you think you're behind. But you're not. You're exactly where God wants you to be. The one thing I still look at. Now, I said I don't struggle with comparison anymore. And that's mostly true. But there's one area where I still catch myself looking at others. Ministry, preaching, praying for people, talking about faith. I see people who can preach powerfully, who can pray with such boldness, who can share their faith so easily. And sometimes I wish I could do that like they do. But then I remember, God didn't call me to be them. He called me to be me. He gave them their gifts, and He gave me mine. And my job isn't to compare. It's to be faithful with what God has given me, to use my voice, my gifts, my platform, in the way He's called me to. So even when I catch myself comparing, I bring it back to this. What is that to me? I have to follow Jesus. I have to run my race. Social media. Highlight real versus reality. Let's talk about social media for a second, because this is where a lot of comparison happens. You scroll through Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever, and you see everyone's best moments, their vacations, their new cars, their perfect relationships, their successes, and you start to feel like your life doesn't measure up, like everyone else has it together and you're struggling. But here's the truth. Social media is a highlight reel. It's not reality. People post their wins. They don't post their struggles. They don't post their failures. They don't post the hard days. So you're comparing your full reality to their edited highlights. And that's not fair to you. If you find that social media is feeding your comparison, take a break. Unfollow people who make you feel bad about yourself. Limit your screen time. Protect your peace. Because your mental health and your faith are more important than scrolling. Gratitude kills comparison. One of the best ways to fight comparison is gratitude. When you're thankful for what you have, you stop focusing on what you don't have. 1 Thessalonians 5:18 says, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." Give thanks in all circumstances. Not just when things are going well, not just when you get what you want, in all circumstances. When you make gratitude a habit, comparison loses its power. Because you're not looking at what others have. You're looking at what God has already given you. And when you do that, you realize you're more blessed than you thought. Focus on what God has called you to do. Here's the bottom line. God has a unique plan for your life, a plan that's different from everyone else's. And He's given you unique gifts, unique opportunities, unique timing. Your job is to focus on what He's called you to do, not what He's called someone else to do. Stop looking at their lane. Stop comparing your chapter 1 to their chapter 20. Stop measuring your progress by their timeline. Just follow Jesus. Be faithful with what He's given you, and trust that He's working everything out for your good. So if you're stuck in the comparison trap right now, here's what I want you to remember. First, comparison is a thief. It steals your joy, your peace, and your faith. Don't let it. Second, God's timing is different for everyone. You're not behind. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Third, run your own race. Stop looking at what others are doing and focus on what God has called you to do. Fourth, social media is not reality. Don't compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. Fifth, practice gratitude. Thank God for what you have, instead of focusing on what you don't have. And sixth, remember what Jesus said to Peter. What is that to you? You must follow me. Their journey is not your concern. Your job is to follow Jesus. Comparison will kill your faith if you let it, but you don't have to let it. You can choose to trust God's plan for your life. You can choose to be grateful. You can choose to celebrate others without feeling threatened. And you can choose to focus on your own race instead of looking at everyone else's. God has good plans for you, plans that are unique to you. And when you stop comparing, you'll be able to see them. If you struggle with comparison, drop a comment. What area do you compare most? Let's talk about it and encourage each other. And if you know someone stuck in the comparison trap, share this with them. They need to hear this. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And remember, stop comparing. Start trusting. God's got you. God bless you.